Hello, my name is Rita. Today we're talking about says investigating, and wow, I really did bring it to an investigating level. I'll share more on that later on. But interviewing family and looking at it from a sociological perspective. So I interviewed my mom, who is a baby boomer, and I am a millennial. There are many similarities between her values, worldviews, and perspective, but there's also differences. So to start off with, the similarities is we both value religion, and it's very, like she said, religion had a very important part in my family and daily life. And that's the same for me too. In her time, or let me back up, the generation before her time, women, it was not like socially okay for a woman to work outside the home. Around her time, more and more women began working outside the home. And although she did not, in her generation and mine more so, both, it's okay for women to work outside the home. She did not, but it's the same. Now you talk about like a generation before that, it would be socially different. That's why I added it to my similarities. So another similarity is another value, time with family, meals, and fun stuff. She talked about going on trips to see her grandparents, which is actually what I did too growing up, and that was just super special. So I do value that. We have taken many trips to go see the kids' other grandma, but we live really close to my mom, so we don't necessarily have to take a trip, but we do go over there, and sauna and stuff, and that time is very valued. Some differences is I think they were too overly strict in schools in her time. This is unrelated to the interview, but I remember my dad saying that they would use a ruler to whack the kid's hand in school. She thinks they're not strict enough in school, and that in her time, that where does this? Okay, I can't find it quickly. But in her time, she says that they weren't allowed to have gum even in school, and I don't think that strictness is necessary. Like, I mean, there needs to be rules, but I think that just like it's not uplifting to a child. So that's a definitely difference in her, like her valuing the strictness, and I'm just like, I don't think I agree with that. So another difference is in our families, she had 12 children and I have 5. I stopped going to that religion, and so because of her religion, and she answered even I think in one of the questions, I can't see it real quick. I have my notes pulled up. But that religion had a great deal in how she chose to do that, and since I stopped going, that's a difference. I don't have the same religion as her, so therefore my values are different than hers. My values now are different than hers. When we first started, me and my ex first started having kids, we had went to the church, and now I don't value on needing to have kids. Like, I want it to be my choice. not necessarily hand it to God and God will choose, which is how she believes, and that's fine. I just believe differently. She also said in her interview the new way, like all the different, how like how like teens, I think is what she was talking about, teens communicate so much on social media, and she feels like that, in the way she said it sounded like it was like a bad thing, because she said that she don't feel like they know how to communicate face to face in conversations, and I don't agree. I think it's just a new way of communicating. Honestly, people, you do you. I don't have a preference, so that's why I listed it as another difference. So says, what sociological evolutions, industrial changes, or world events did your interview subjects share that most shaped their worldview? And this is an interesting one, because she said Kennedy, when Kennedy was assassinated, and during the Vietnam War, because her dad was in the Navy, and then her grandpa was in the Air Force. So my great grandpa and my grandpa, and how when they came home from the Vietnam War, they weren't treated very good. They were treated poorly, she said. I find that interesting. I find that interesting because how different it is from mine. Like, I have had like the different world events, like the World Trade Centers, the pandemic. Those have just shifted my view, whereas hers, I didn't even know about. Like, I wasn't alive during, I knew about Kennedy and stuff being assassinated. I wasn't alive, is what I'm trying to say, during that time. So it's interesting to see how those affected her. She did not really say how it affected her, but it just, she said it made her sad. Yeah, that's what she said. When I was questioning her, eventually I just started asking the questions as I was like, I don't know. This one question really came out as I was just like interviewing her, like she was part of a crime or something. And I'm like, I was listening to it later, and it's like, it like kind of stuttered her up, like it messed up her flow of answering things, the tone of my voice. I don't know what happened there, but so it says, you share the 3 specific questions and their answers you found the most intriguing. So that one is up on my top of most intriguing, because it was absolutely hilarious. Even more funny when you listen to the audio, because I had recorded it. Because I had said, so were you involved in any certain organizations? It sounded like I was like accusing her of something. Another question I found intriguing was did natural disasters or national events or tragedies occur during the first 2 decades of your life? What stands out as something that impacted your worldview? Kind of talked about this earlier, but that was one that intrigued me. Do we have to tell why? Okay. And then the other question that intrigued me was the last one. I asked her, is there anything else you'd like to add to this inquiry about generational differences, either in our family or in your experiences in society? It has changed so much from the time that my parents were children until I was a child. And even now with my own children, I'm seeing more changes with my grandchildren. For instance, the lack of respect is huge, and work ethic has changed. Society has changed. Young people are so busy with their phones and socially communicating on different platforms that I don't feel like they know really how to connect and communicate face to face. I just thought that was interesting. Like, if you just stop and think about like how in her time there wasn't cell phones, and my older sisters, day and age, that's when they, I remember when cell phones came out, my mom and dad had this huge, I don't even know how the thing worked, okay? It was just this, huge cube, and it was like a cell phone in the pickup, and thing is clunky. So one significant takeaway I have from this is that society changes with every generation, and their experiences in my mom's experiences in her generation where they're really super strict, and there's no cell phones. Those are needed for that generation, but in our generation, or my generation, my experience are shaped, my society, millennials, is shaped by our experiences, and even Gen Z, so she said that there's less of a work ethic. Please no one take this personally. I know I'm in a group with a lot of younger kids, but their generation is so much loose, as she said, my mom said, and that's true. People don't really work as hard. People are more social, but that is needed for that generation, because when there's everybody has access to social media, and people are on social media a nonchalant attitude, whereas before, maybe in her generation maybe it wasn't acceptable to be that way. It's needed because there's more bullies on the internet that can reach you from home, whereas before it's no, you want to talk to me, come to my house. So I think that's kind of my takeaway, is even though there's generational differences kind of between us in each different type of society, that it's needed for that generation. I think I think that's all. Oh, the last question is, how does this help you increase your broader understanding of diverse generations and apply your sociological imagination? That's kind of my answer, is what is needed for that generation. That's how society is. But, for the coming generations, it's going to continue to change, and each generation is going to have a different set of values, because they need that for that generation in order to just thrive in society. And what is socially acceptable in that generation, then they could either make them have a higher social status, if that makes sense. Anyway, that's all. Thank you for watching.